Well, here I am. Another moment in time. A time to just hear myself think. It's a time where I'm not selling time. Both are very important. But that moment in time where you reflect, you just hear yourself just take off, your mind just going in all sorts of different places and running across different things. Very important time. Those are the moments where dreams start. Those are moments where we come to conclusions and situations and conclusions and maybe conclusions of situations. I mean, it's just a lot to just sit down in a nice quiet place and just hear yourself. Great things come from that. I've had some of my most better ideas from just moments of being alone, driving to and from work, mowing the lawn, at my business, about my business. You know the funny thing about that? Those moments, in most cases, you're always alone because that big W word shows up. You know, it's not the easing, it's not the leisure. You know, task has to be done. Work is that big W. Work has to be done. And it's amazing. A lot of times you wind up alone. And those are some great moments where you can think, you could create, you could dream. So with that being said, be about your purpose. That'll generate free time. That'll generate alone time, creative time. Visions. Visions is an interesting thing. The word gets thrown around a lot, you know, recklessly, carelessly. Just a good buzzword for conversation when you're around friends and other people, you know, everybody in your professional life, possibly, whatever you do, and everybody had that moment of look at me, and I want to impress you, you want to impress me. You know, that moment I'm talking about. But a vision is some real deep stuff. Sometimes a vision is set in motion from birth, maybe even before birth. If you God, maybe before birth. But anyway, through your lifetime and that life journey, that vision naturally gets what's needed for it to feed on. And what I say about feed on, when you think back, think about the little things, little sayings that you've heard and it meant a lot to you and it stick to you. I mean, even to this day. Take for instance, my mom said, my grandfather always said, if you make $1, save a dime. I have something my grandfather also, I'm sitting up here thinking about it, he also told me, and he was way up in age, he was in his 90s. And it was, my grandfather, he was a pretty interesting guy. He was a smart guy. He liked to read. He was a sharecropper. Can you imagine that? My grandfather, a sharecropper. Both of my grandfathers, they were brilliant men. Well, anyway, my grandfather on my mom's side, well, he wanted to I came to visit him. He had been in the hospital. My grandfather, he is very particular about who he rode in the car with. He just ain't ride with anybody. It had to be his one daughter, in particular, or two maybe, that he get in the car and go somewhere with. But anyway, he had been sick. He had been home for a little while. I found out later that he hadn't been outside the house getting around until this one day I showed up in the country. He lived in the country. I lived in the city to visit him. And he wanted to take a ride with me. And that was different. And of course, in my young college age, when you're trying, you try things. You have good rearing, good moral value, a whole lot of things. But so anyway, my grandfather, he wanted to take a ride with me. So I said, okay. And like I said, come to find out later, my grandmother said, he hasn't been out since he been back. And I might have said that, but I'm reiterating on that. So here we go, we riding down the country road. It ain't about speed, it's just cruising. Old curvy, backwood road. And not really backwoods, but it's what they had for the main road coming through there. In the hills of St. Francisville, Louisiana, okay? So you know what he told me? My grandfather told me, he said, what don't bother you, leave it alone. What don't concern you, don't worry about it, and you'll live a long time. And I'm sure we went on to talk about other things, but that particular thing resonates with me and guides me even till today. And you do whatever with it you want to do with it, but it's out there. So my grandfather, I wasn't old enough to know him the one on my father's side. Countryman. He on the east side of the area from where my other grandfather lived, that I spoke of earlier, first. And so I have to get a lot of things from elders because I wasn't old enough to remember them and stuff like that. But me and my mom, we used to talk a whole lot about things. She told me my grandfather used to make a big garden every year. I mean, this garden was apparently a lot more than he needed. And she asked him one day, she said, Mr. Willett, why you make such a big garden? And he said, if I don't make enough for other people, I won't have enough for myself. If I don't make enough that includes other people, I won't have enough for myself. And then I have another one. I had a physics teacher. His name was, and I'm going to say his whole name. He was about in his 80s. We talking about 35 years ago, 30 years ago. His name was Dr. Roma Mahanti. And what was special about Dr. Mahanti, he was like a little fella, and he always had this smile, you know, as he went about and everything. He was about his business, pleasant face. He told me once, and I'm going to elaborate on his story, but he told me once that life isn't worth living if you're not helping somebody. Life is not living unless you're helping somebody. And Dr. Mahanti, he was so special in my life. And I don't know what he saw in me. Maybe, you know, he saw my potential going out to be an engineer. Or maybe he saw by the way I carried myself. You know, I wasn't all in. You know, when I say all in, I was part my environment, part trying to be a student, you know. And one thing I learned about that journey is you'll never graduate unless you're all in. And what I mean by that, until you got to give up everything and be a student. If you over here being a student, you got to be a student all the way. You can't be a student and living in your environment with your friends and stuff and doing some of the things you always been doing, and they not in college, they not doing what you doing. You got to be 100% in, basically, on whatever you're doing. Whatever you decide to do, you got to be all the way in. You know, you can't be this cool daddy, playboy, this, that, and other, in my case, you know what I'm saying? And study being an engineer. You know, the two just don't go together. You know, if you're going to be a student, you're going to have to be a student. Then you'll graduate. I learned that the hard way, okay? And not really the hard way, it's just my journey. And my journey took me about 8 years to get out of college, but it was all good, though. We'll talk about that one day. But Dr. Hunty invited me to be a part of a group that he was in outside of the university. The group was called ACES. And he invited me to the group, which was the board members of the group that consisted of the head of EPA for the state of Louisiana, the head of the head of that, the head of this, all these groups that had something to do with the environment, because their goal was to identify and try to get things going to help our environment. And one of the things I'm gonna give you an example was along the Mississippi River, cities that border the Mississippi River, which, you know, the Mississippi River is an industrious river. You know, you have all kind of chemical plants, petroleum plants. You just have anything that's moving in bulk and in quantity. A lot of time is shipped north and south up the river. Up the river, you have spills, you have all kind of things going on. So there's a high rate of cancer in cities and towns that border the Mississippi River. So this group, we were the beginning to trying to resolve, identify, start getting into motion, resolving things. And you know, all these people sitting in the room. Dr. Mahanti, he bring me in. Here I am, this city boy, you know, and I'm living in this one of my daddy rental apartments. And I tell people, the only thing that kept it from being a shotgun house was the back door was on the side of the house instead of, you know, a shotgun house in the South. You know, the front, you got the door in the front and the door straight back to the back of the house. The only thing kept mine from being a shotgun house, the back door was on the side of the side of the house. You know, he invited me to be a board member. And that kind of like really opened up my eyes and helped me. Because I'm sitting in that point, I decided to be all the way a student. So the party, that went away. All the friends, all that went away. When work, like I said in the beginning, work start, people go away. So, you know, I'm sitting at my house, I study, whatever. And I be getting calls from these people, you know, or him, telling me about the meeting. And you know, we're gonna meet this particular day at LSU. That's where we met, at LSU. And we're gonna meet over here, we're gonna have the meetings, you know, and that was set at a certain time, we have meetings and stuff. But, you know, it just did something to me where all these seemingly very important people, they call me too. They talking to me. They want to know what I think about stuff. You know, about things, about issues. You know, be sure you make it to the meeting. And that really helped me out a whole lot. It really did. But getting back to what I was speaking of, just life is not worth living unless you're helping someone. Wow. And I could go on with different things I picked up from different people in conversation that basically helped guide me to be who I am today. You know, my dad, me and my dad, we be together a lot, you know. And I tell you a story about me being with my dad to show you how much we probably was together. I was a little kid, you know, and my dad was making this transition from being a cement finisher to a TV repairman at the time. because I missed the era where it was just strictly radios. I know about TVs. So I was a little dude, man, maybe like first grade, second grade, something like that. Maybe first grade, second grade. But anyway, my dad would come home, and I'm saying come home, but anyway, he had to go on calls. The shop was at the house. He built him a shop on the other side of the carport. That's where his shop was. And my dad would be ready to go, you know, when small like that, and you was like me, shoot, you hear the truck moving, you know the sign of the truck. You know, just like I had a little chihuahua. Certain things, you see them ears jump up, he looking around, because he could hear. Man, I hear that truck going. He'll tell me where he about to go, what he about to do. And we had a long driveway. And I'm going to tell you, I'd stand at the driveway and watch him go bag down this long driveway. And the farther he got away from me, the longer my face got. Like, you know, the kids do the sad look thing, and a tear might even drop. You just standing there looking, you know, like you just breaking their hearts, you know. Like, I'm gonna leave him. Finally hit the brakes. Go tell your mama you going with me. Come on. All right, Dad, I'm taking off running. Mom, I'm going with Dad, running down the long driveway to get in the truck and go with it. You know, so that's our relationship with my dad, all the way, you know. I learned a lot from my dad. My dad was a entrepreneur, inventor. You know, he just was all around great guy, you know. And he always helped people too. Always helped people, you know. And I remember many times, one in particular, it was around Christmas. This family got burnt out for Christmas, man. And my dad, he told my mother, I'm going over here and see about these people. And of course, you know, my dad, you know, he went over there and did something to help him, you know, take him some money, you know, whatever he could, you know, he could do that, you know. And I seen him, you know, do that all my life, you know. I don't know, maybe that's, you know, where I get it from, I guess, you know. But anyway, he tell me all kinds of stories, you know. He say, you know, when you get off work, you know, you come home first. My mom used to drill me on that too. You come home. You don't stop for happy hour. You don't stop, you know what I'm saying? Over here, over there, you've been gone all day. You come home where we know you're okay. People know you're okay. And he said, you know, some guys, they get off, you know, they got to go and have a drink and do this, do that every day. And he told me, he said, you know, I always like to be around people doing things. You know, I don't like to go sit around drinking and doing all these other things, you know, after I get off work. You know, and that's something that stuck with me as well. And oh, this is a cool one. He always told me you don't spend money out of both of your pockets. You know, and I think he was making the analogy, and it's something I kind of do myself today, you know, based on what he said is because, so let me elaborate on that. So I travel a lot up and down the road, going to work, stuff like that. So I use credit card to pay for my gas, because that's one of my bigger expenses, 80 miles plus a day. But my paycheck, I get it deposited. And I don't fool with that. So at the end of the month, the money should be there to pay for the credit card. You see? And you don't get in no trouble. So that saying about not spending money out of both pockets, well, that's the part that really, that's what I got from that bit of knowledge that he gave me about don't spend money out of both pockets. And that keep you out of trouble. So it's that, and I gave you a few examples of some things, but it's a lot of things like that where I said, stuff you hear from your grandmother, a friend, or anywhere. You pick up these things, these positive, motivational things from people, personal experiences that we used to call it, they're giving you the game. They're giving you, they're giving you some wisdom if you sit down and listen. Some things they went through that you might not have to go through. That'll help you. So I was big on that because I had older friends. I love being around all my whole life, old people older than me. I mean, sometimes people they was in their 90s when I'm in my 20s. I go sit 2-3 hours with my godmother and she just telling me the stories of her life, And that's an example. But I had other people not quite as old, and they spend time and let me hang around, and I listen, look, and I learn from them. But things like that help shape a lot of my thinking. I would say it helped form some of the visions that I have for myself in my life. It, like I was saying, it kind of helped feed and guide your vision. I don't want to say stay on track, because a vision is uniquely yours. Nobody outside of yourself can validate, justify, or whatever your vision and what you are on this earth to do. A lot of times people are big cheerleaders and they speak highly of people that has finally did a great thing or great things that impact the world. But it didn't start off like that. You may have not had the means. They may not have the family foundation or even the family support in this thing that's yearning, churning, and burning inside of them, called their purpose or being on a purpose. And it's a lot of things that everybody, we see these people once the work's been done. We see these people, when the light shine over on them all of a sudden. But you know what? They people like you. They people like me. All flawed people, because we are, one way or the other. And they had an invention. They created a purpose to serve others and also serve themselves. And when I say serve themselves, it don't have to be, you have bills and everything you have to pay, but it's nothing like having a reason for getting up, getting out, get going every day. That nobody else have to understand. Nobody is going to be there to cheerlead you through. It's something that you do. You do with good intentions. You do demonstrating good service, diligence, endurance. You creating a lot of things that you'll be able to hold on with you for the rest of your life, because on that type of journey, it's more that come out of those kind of journeys than this thing of what I want to produce, this thing, what I want the outcome to be. And that thing that's bigger than that, because it's no definite about those things. That's a path that you go down one way, and before you know it, you turning left, you turning right, you might do a 360 turn and go somewhere else to finally get to something that's a niche or something like that you find. But one thing that's certain out of this, when you look in the mirror throughout that journey, you look at the person you have become. The person you are. It far outweigh your understanding about things. It outweighs that thing. The journey, that journey is a son of a gun, man. Man, you just start learning how to, your eyes just open up. You learn how to, you appreciate more. You understand better your purpose, your true purpose, to serve and to help someone else. It comes to the surface. Good intentions, always. Always. Because that's the way it works. That's the way it works. I kind of follow my dad in a way where, help people. People going through things that, I say, like some people, you might say, good description, might be the underdog. I just from a kid, I always been down and there for the underdogs. You can't, man, I just always have been. I see somebody in distress, going through things. I got this thing about me, where I kind of feel what other people feeling. Some people might be able to relate to that, some people might not. When I see people hurt, I hurt. And when I can, I jump in there and just see what I can do to, if it's a word or a thing or whatever I could do to help, because I feel it. And don't nobody need to go through that very long. Especially when you can intervene with something they can't do for themselves. They can't, and just to ease it up for somebody, I've had people do things like that for me. But I don't know. Some people use the term karma. Some people say God. Some people say the universe. You got to have good intent. You got to do good things and try to help somebody. That's the good part of what goes around and come around. I have this author, James Allen, and he wrote this book. It's a book that my wife gave to me. She always thinks about me and try to inspire, motivate. Just it's just how it is, you know. She gave me this book, As a Man Thinketh. And I've passed on that book to a family friend that was in prison. I passed that book on to a CEO of a business. Not just a business, a large international conglomerate, a big business. And, you know, everybody seemed to thank me for that book, you know, because it came in at the right time. Something, I guess, to rewire, unwire, something. My friend, when he got out of prison, a family friend, he said, I had to leave that book. Everybody was asking me for that book. But anyway, James Allen. But I went on to look to kind of enjoy some of his other writings because I liked his mindset. And one thing that stick out to me is that he says, people ask, why does it look like, you know, people that I'm going to say appear to not have good intent seem to prosper, and a good person, what people might deem a good person, seem to have all this bad luck? Well, one thing he says, and it's one of these things I keep in my mind, the guy that seemed to be, you know, that all the good things happen to, that seem like he getting it through certain means, like, and I don't want to say bad, and I don't want to use the word good, but you follow what I'm saying. Some people might call him crook or crooked or whatever. Look, whatever you want to say, doing things against the law, whatever. They seem to prosper. And this man, you might go to church, you might do this, do that, you know, and it seems like every turn you look, something bad happening, something going on. Well, James Allen, in his elaboration on the subject, he says, that man that you're looking at, that you call bad, and it look like he prospering every time, all the time. Well, what you might not know, one time, at one point in his life, he was a very good man. And he's only reaping the fruit of his labor at the time of what you call a bad guy from the time when he was a good man. Now, this man you calling a good man that looked like everything going wrong in his life, well, at one time, he probably was a bad man. And now that he done changed to be a good man, well, now it's time he getting the fruit of what he did when he was a bad man. You see what I'm saying? So the whole thing, when you could get to a point in your life where you somewhat what we call even with the world, and you do have a chance to have a fresh start. That fresh start when you're even with the world, you need to go forward with good intent on everything that you do. Everything. And realize that you're not going to take nothing away from this world when it's your time to leave. The talents, the gifts you got, or that you have, God gave them to you. You know, to use them, not use them. But I always say everybody got gifts. It's up to you. You gonna use them or you not. You gonna use them for good, use them for bad. But you got them. So, and then this other thing where, you know, I grew up in a Sunday school, you know, every Sunday, you know. Not no randomly or whatever. It had to be something come up. Well, I didn't make it to Sunday school. So in the Sunday school, you know, you really study the Bible. You have debates, you know, on different things. It's not like getting preached at. You know what I'm saying? You know, you raise your hand, let's stop right here, I don't understand this. So you get a good, thorough understanding of things. Then you realize that God ain't gonna give you no more than you can bear. That's something I use walking into situations. And the other one is, when I represent myself being worthy and know what and why I've accumulated these resources and what for, and I use them for good. I use them to help people. And you get to this point in your life, you know, and I tell people this sometimes, you know, close to me or whatever. I tell them that, I say this, they got this song, so, you know, spiritual song that they used to sing in the, all I know, in the Baptist church. And they'd sing it, you know, you can't be God-given no matter how hard you try. And it's something to that song. You can't be God-given no matter how hard you try. So, you know, that's kind of like the, when you get to a certain plateau of understanding in sync with God, nature, you'll understand that one. Because it's true. You know, I constantly experience things when I do things to help people. Things come in my mind for me to go and assist somebody, help somebody. You know, I don't get satisfied until I do it. And then I come back to myself. You know, it's like an urgency, something come up, it sounds reasonable, sound good, people trying hard, things ain't going right now. This little thing here might could help them just get past and keep going forward with good intent in their life and trying to, you know, at the same time to give an example of helping somebody and doing good. And God always replenish. He always replenished me. You know, so it's like, okay, I'm giving, you know, and then yeah, I get back sometime more than I done gave. You know, and I related to that. That song went, you can't be God given, no matter how hard you try. So, you know, it's his resources. You know, I always wanted to get to a place where he would trust me with more. You know, and that's work to get there. But I work with what I got. You know, I share what I got, what I have. You know, and I go on. And here we go, going back to, you know, I'm involved with this, my journey of being an entrepreneur, being the best at what I do. What you guys know, my constant money, my job, the place where I go to sell my time. With all this going on through this journey, I'm constantly evolving my thoughts to be a better person and have better understanding on how the world works and my place in it as far as my purpose, you know, what I should be doing. Stick with me. Some of these things I'm going to elaborate in time. And believe me, it's something that's going to help somebody, because that's my intent. We'll get down into some things. And I'm going to leave you with a clue. What'll be the continuation of what I just said. I'm going to be speaking on making treasure out of trash. Hang on to that one and think about it. So until the next time,